Hi, Kevin Henry, the managing editor for Dental Economics, here today with Dr. Roy Shelburne. And we talked to Dr. Shelburne, I guess it was about 2 years ago, 18 months, 2 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
And we detailed some of the problems that he was having, and he was actually getting ready to go into prison. And tell us what the last 18 months to 2 years, I mean, tell us.
It's been a drastic change in terms of financially, as far as with family and relationships, and it's been a major transition. I left home to present to prison on August the 20th of 2008. The location was Manchester, Kentucky. It's a prison camp. The prison system has a demarcation. They assign prisoners according to the points that are accumulated, and it has to do with the offense as well as criminal history. And I qualified to go to a camp. I was sentenced to 24 months. I actually spent 19 months at the prison camp in Manchester.
Okay.
While there, I was assigned to the education department, and I was actually in the leisure library where I took care of the books. Great change from the dental practice as far as that goes. Interestingly, because I was a dentist, I was not allowed to work in the dental clinic. They actually have a dental clinic there.
Huh.
So, I preference would have been to be able to be an assistant at least there.
Sure.
But the system actually limits you. You cannot be in or near that dental clinic. I couldn't even be a janitor in that area, which is interesting. But it was an interesting time as far as that goes. It spent a lot of time writing, had a lot of people that wrote back and forth, actually a lot of people from the dental community. I guess either through the information that was out on the internet or by word of mouth.
Sure.
Heard from dentists all over the United States who were quite supportive. The outpouring was amazing. It was really amazing, and I appreciate everything that the dental community did and has done to support and to try to help as far as my situation, the family situation. In a lot of ways it's harder on the family than it is on me.
Sure.
They're still in the real world. They don't have a father or a husband or a friend there. So relationships are strained. Luckily I have a wonderful family, a wife that has been loving and supportive of the children as well. My greatest concern in going in is that life would stop for them. It didn't. It was more difficult, of course. They had to deal with a lot of situations that I didn't have to deal with because I was away and in prison. But it was an experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But nonetheless, one that I was able to learn from, and it helps to refocus your life. It helps to put a focus and an understanding on what's important, why it's important, and it helps to clear out a lot of the junk in your life that is not important, and you become focused like a laser on those things that do come to the surface as being important.
And you know, within this article, you're going to have links back to some interviews that Penny Anderson, one of our senior editors, did with Dr. Shelburne and some of the other people involved with the case before he went into prison. So you'll be able to get some background from that. But this interview, I really wanted to talk to Dr. Shelburne about, obviously, his experiences during, but now after, and kind of tell our viewers a little bit what your message is now that you're out.
Yeah.
What's your goals here?
My greatest goal is to be able to voice from my experience my shortcomings as it relates to my record keeping, as it relates to how I practice dentistry. There's a way of being able to practice that is proper, but it's also defensive in a way that record keeping is paramount. When you are called on to give an account for what you did and why you did it, it's not good enough that you relay that after the fact. It has to be part of that permanent record, that document, so that when you do something, it's of utmost importance that if you're called to give an answer for that later on, that it's all contained within that document. One of the most difficult times during the trial was sitting on the witness stand and being cross-examined by the prosecution, and I was asked why I provided a particular service, and I outlined why I did it. And the prosecution reflected back to my patient record and said, well, that's not explained completely in this record. So how do you now justify what you did then in the fact that you did not record it? This seems like it's to protect you after the fact. And I said, well, you know, if I did a restoration, there was an obvious reason there for the restoration that was placed. And the prosecutor turned around to the jury box and said, well, it's not there, is it? And I said, no, sir, it's not. And his response was, well, I guess we just have to take your word for it, don't we? I don't want that to happen to anybody else. I want my message to our dental community is the fact that if it's not in the record, it didn't exist. If you did it and you don't record it, there's no evidence of the fact that you did that. So be careful in not only how you record, but also how you bill those instances to the insurance carriers. We have, for the most part, very dedicated and competent individuals that are submitting those claims. However, that claim is a legal and binding document, so that any information that is contained on that claim can be binding in terms of the truthfulness, the completeness of that billing. Bill what you did, exactly what you did when you did it. As far as make sure that it's done accurately, make sure that it's done timely, and do your due diligence. Go back, review, make sure that what is your desire to be on those claims is actually on those claims. Unless the doctor puts his eye on it, the person that's responsible ultimately is delegating that responsibility, that legal obligation to somebody else. So my urging to you is to know what goes out. Be comfortable saying, this is exactly what I did, this is why, this is what I need to be paid for because this is what I did, and do it consistently. Because any mistake is not necessarily a mistake. Ignorance is no excuse. We are responsible as practitioners, as owners of that business, for whatever goes out of that office, regardless of whether I did it, whether an associate did it, whether an assistant or a front desk person did it. So be very careful, be diligent, be precise, because you could be called on to justify what's there, to make sure that it is what is right and proper.
Dr. Shelburne, I really appreciate you sharing what's happened and
My
what you
pleasure.
learned.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.